right, so tonight's topic is the Iranian and Israeli ceasefire. All right, so as announced I saw it on X from President Trump, there is a ceasefire that is happening or will be happening between Israel and Iran. And do I think that's a good thing? Absolutely. Do I think that President Trump or the Americans should have been bombing Iran in the first place? Most certainly not. Do I think that this has isolated some of Donald Trump's base? Yes, I most certainly do. Because I think a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump were disaffected liberals coming from the Democratic Party, such as RFK and Elon Musk and Tulsi Gabbard and lots of other people, myself included. It's like, I'm not an American, by the way, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Americans. But what I would say is that I was a person who wouldn't have voted for the Republican Party or supported the Republican Party before Donald Trump in 2016. But I do support Trump, generally speaking, for the most part, except in actions like these. And I think a lot of Americans didn't want to be dragged into another Middle Eastern war over oil or any other reasons, or at the behest of another country, because this was an altercation that was happening between Israel and Iran. And it really had nothing to do with America or America's interests or Americans. So I think that a lot of people who were disaffected liberals who are supporting Donald Trump probably had issue with this bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities, and probably a lot of people on the right wing, in the right wing camp, are traditional conservatives as well, with the exception of being the kind of neocon, chicken hawk, warmongers on the neocon right, and I'm directly kind of addressing the kind of John Boltons of the world and what have you. It's not meant to be personal, but you get what I'm getting at. So at any rate, I think that this has isolated some of Trump's base, and I do think that while it may not have any consequences for the Trump administration during Trump's administration, I do think that it's fostered deeper resentment between the Islamic world generally, and also definitely between Iran and the Iranian regime and America. Now, here's the thing. The situation in Iran is complicated. I saw a video today, and it was an Iranian woman who was, she was kind of, I think she was involved with women's rights. But at any rate, she was telling the story of when she was young, and she got in trouble with the Irani Islamic authorities because her and her cousins were watching like MTV on VHS cassette in 1995. And I don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure she said she got SA'd and I think detained in some sort of way. And she was listing a bunch of people, men and women, I'm pretty sure, who were killed by the Islamic regime because of their open support for women's rights in Iran. So I think that there's a movement in Iran that there's a lot of people who want out of that regime. But do I think that it's America's job to police that? No, I most certainly do not. And it's a long, complicated thing because before there was the the Islamic regime, there was the Shah. And the Shah was kind of, as far as I understand, kind of a U.S. intelligence asset or something to that effect. So Iran beforehand in the 70s, or I think 60s and 70s, don't quote me, was kind of like more like a Western democracy than it is now. Do I think that would be better for the Iranian people? Well, sure. It's like, do I think that it was correct for U.S. intelligence or U.S. influence to be involved with a leader in Iran beforehand in the Shah? No, I don't think that's appropriate either. Do you see what I'm saying? So like these are complicated things. And I do think also this has deepened the relationship between Iran and Moscow. And Vladimir Putin came out and condemned the attacks that President Trump did in Iran. And here's the thing. I think this is going to further hasten the development of the BRICS community to get independent of the U.S. economy. Because, well, look, Russia was pretty much cut off from the rest of the West from the West rather, economically, right? And I think that this is going to further the development of China, Iran, and Russia, and was it Brazil, to develop an economy of their own that's separate from the West. So I think is it a good thing that that there's a ceasefire? Of course. Do I think that this situation should have happened? Do I think that the U.S. should have bombed Iran in the first place? No. And look, President Trump might have had intel information saying that these people were that the Iranian regime was developing nuclear weapons, and that is what it is. But that doesn't give the U.S. license to go police the world. That's the point of having United Nations and so on and so forth. That's the point of having the international community for sanctions and so on and so forth. It's there's not much point in having these organizations that are to represent global interests in the UN or what have you if other countries are just if countries are just going to disregard that and go to immediate attacks in the first place. So I don't think I have too much else to add on the subject for this evening, but we'll leave it there for tonight. Peace.